You think your pantry is a fortress? It's not. When the grid flatlines, your refrigerator becomes a plastic coffin in 48 hours. Supermarket shelves will be stripped bare in 3. If you're relying on standard grocery store canned goods, you've bought yourself maybe 2 years before the seals fail and the rot sets in. Welcome back to Grid Zero. I'm Cal Hunter. Today, we aren't just prepping. We're doing temporal engineering. We are stopping the clock. We are building the 25-year forever bucket. Your 3 biggest enemies in a grid-down scenario are oxygen, light, and pests. Commercial survival food companies charge you thousands to defeat them. We're going to do it for pennies on the dollar using basic physics and a hair straightener. Here's the blueprint. Start with a food-grade 5-gallon bucket. Inside, drop a 7 mil thickness mylar bag. Mylar isn't just regular plastic. It's a metallized shield that completely blocks light and gas exchange. Now, the payload. We need dry, low-fat calories, white rice, pinto beans, hard red wheat. Do not use brown rice. The natural oils in the brown will go rancid and poison the whole batch. Pour your dry goods in, but leave about 4 inches of headspace at the top. Here is the chemical engine of our time capsule, oxygen absorbers. These are packets of iron powder and salt. When exposed to air, the iron rapidly rusts. It chemically binds the free oxygen inside the bag, leaving behind only inert nitrogen. For a full 5-gallon bucket, drop in a 2,000 cubic centimeters oxygen absorber. If your bucket is half full, 1,000 cubic centimeters is enough. Move fast. The clock starts ticking the second that packet hits the air. Now, the seal. Push out as much ambient air as you can. Fold the top of the mylar flat. You don't need an expensive industrial impulse sealer. Grab a standard hair straightener. Turn it up high. Clamp it down across the top edge of the bag, holding for 3 seconds at a time. Work your way across, but leave a 2-inch gap at the end. Squeeze the last bit of air out through that gap, then heat seal it completely shut. Snap the bucket lid on and hammer it down. Over the next 48 hours, that iron powder will eat the remaining oxygen. You'll actually see the mylar shrink wrap itself to the food, creating a micro vacuum. Anaerobic stasis. Achieved. No oxygen means no bugs, no oxidation, no rot. Now, before you start filling buckets with everything in your pantry, I need you to stop, because there are 4 things that will silently destroy a forever bucket from the inside. And I see people make these mistakes constantly. Number 1. Salt. Salt does not need oxygen absorbers. Salt is a preservative. It will absorb moisture, clump into a solid block, and become unusable. Store salt separately in its original sealed container. Number 2. Sugar. Same problem. Oxygen absorbers pull moisture out of sugar and turn it into a solid brick. White sugar lasts indefinitely on its own. Leave it alone. Number 3. Flour. All-purpose flour has enough natural fat content to go rancid within 2 to 3 years, regardless of oxygen levels. If you want storable grain, store the whole hard wheat berry and grind it later. The wheat berry lasts 25 years. The flour does not. Number 4. Anything with moisture above 10%. Dried pasta is borderline. Crackers are borderline. If it bends instead of snaps, it does not go in the long-term bucket. Dry, dense, low fat. Those are your 3 filters for everything that goes into long-term storage. Let's do the math on scale. One person needs approximately 2,000 calories per day to function under stress. A full 5-gallon bucket of white rice contains roughly 33,000 calories. That's 16 days of food for one person. For a 90-day supply, the baseline I recommend for every household, you need 6 buckets per person. 6 buckets. Stacked 2 high, 3 wide. That fits in a closet. That fits under a bed. That fits in the corner of a garage behind a shelf that nobody looks at. For a 1-year supply, you're looking at 23 buckets per person. 23 buckets at roughly $12 each plus supplies. That's under $400 for a full year of calories. $400. Commercial survival food companies will charge you $3,000 to $5,000 for the same caloric equivalent. You now know exactly why. Here's the discipline that separates a real food system from a panic purchase. Rotation. Every bucket gets a label. Date packed. Contents. Caloric value per day. You write it in permanent marker directly on the bucket lid, not on a sticker that falls off. On the lid. Your newest buckets go to the back. Your oldest buckets come to the front. First in, first out. This is not a food storage tip. This is inventory management. Treat it like one. Every 6 months, open one bucket. Cook from it. Confirm the seal held. Confirm the quality. Then replace it. Your storage is not a museum. It is a living system. It requires maintenance like any other system. One final variable that destroys more long-term food than anything else. Temperature. Every 10 degrees Fahrenheit above 70 degrees cuts your storage life roughly in half. A bucket stored in a hot garage in summer at 90 degrees doesn't last 25 years. It lasts 6. Store your buckets in the coolest, darkest location available. Interior closets, basement floors, below-grade spaces. The floor is always cooler than the shelf. Stack on the floor. And keep them off concrete directly. Use a wooden pallet or plastic shelf to prevent moisture wicking from below. One more thing before we close the transmission. Write this down. The minimum viable stack for a single adult. 6 buckets of white rice. 4 buckets of pinto beans. 2 buckets of hard red wheat. That's 12 buckets total. 90 days of calories. Fits in a space the size of a small wardrobe. Costs less than a car payment. That is your baseline, not your ceiling. Your floor. Start there. Build from there. Stack them deep. Label every bucket with today's date. And understand what you just did. You didn't buy food. You bought time. And time is the only currency that matters when the clock stops. This is Cal Hunter. Grid 0. Out.